Hello, race fans. Welcome to another episode of Short Track Guys Podcast, brought to you by ShortTrackExclusives.com. I am your host, Thomas Battis, alongside two of the same short track guys in the studio as always. Jim Pokrant, driver of the 07 Can'tQuitFishing.com Sportsman and 2021 Sportsman Champion here at Five Flag Speedway in Pensacola, Florida. And Ted Baber, Ted Baber Video Productions. What's up, guys?
What's going on?
Good evening, sir. Hey, I want to start this evening by saying condolences to you and your family, sir.
Yes.
And we appreciate you, and that's why we missed last week.
Right.
And I also would like to ask for some prayers for two people. Martin Beck, my crew chief, he's currently in the hospital. We love you, Martin. Hope you get better. And Billy Melvin had some surgery this week to remove some cancer. When they got in there, they couldn't remove it. So now he's going to have to go in and heal up, and then they're going to have to do radiation to try to kill the cancer. So some thoughts and prayers to his family, and hope that all works out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it seems, it was rough, and it's rough on all of us, and, we're all going to go through it, and it's been tough, but the support that we've had from the outside, our listeners, our family, our close friends, it's been nothing but spectacular, and we appreciate the support, but, as all of us, have people around us that leave us, would want us to continue, and that's what we're going to do. And so we're going to pick up where we left off a couple of weeks ago, from Speedfest up in Cordele, and we had some entries that kind of trickled down to what we're going to get into down at New Smyrna now. That's going on their sixth night. At the World Series of Asphalt Stock Car Racing. Man, I can't wait to get into that. But let's just talk about the Sportsman thing coming up. I heard you had some news with a new engine.
Yeah, I got to thank Daniel from Enterprise, Alabama. He sold me a 602 crate motor. Big thank you to Ben Cranford for the use of his last year and the beginning of this year. We decided to get our own engine program just because if I blow his up, then I got to buy two of them. I can't afford that. So thanks, Daniel, for making me a good deal on a used 602, and we're going to get after it hard this year. Got my old super stock back. We're going to start building it, too. I think we got a motor. We're going to put in it and try to run it down in New Smyrna. I'd love to take that old girl down there and kick some behind because I think she'll do it. It's a great old car. I got it sitting in my front yard all naked. She's all stripped down to the bare chassis. So,
how far have you gotten into it to go through it?
I just got all the body off of it, and I pressure washed it and took vacuumed it out, pressure washed it, got all the sheet metal off of it. And, it's still a pretty solid car. I mean, there's some things that are heavy as heck on there I'm going to have to cut off and fix. But, big thanks to Scott Wicker, my buddy, for giving it back to me because I had that old girl for quite a while, and it was one of my favorite race cars.
It's looking good. We're going to get it better.
Pretty fast in this day, I bet.
Well, Tracy Goodson won 16 of 16 races at Five Flags one year in that car.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Built by an old dude named Rabbit Davis, and was David Spears won in that car, and I think Clay Brown won a feature in that car.
Dang, it's got history.
Oh yeah, in the old limited late model days, and they turned it back into a street stock, and Tracy won a bunch of races in that old car.
It's very solid. I mean, the cage is just a monster.
I'm gonna add some gussets to it. She's pretty old, but I'm gonna step her up a notch and see what we can get done. I can't wait to try it out again. My favorite, one of my favorite race cars next to the Dave Redden's old vintage car, which belongs to a buddy of mine. I love that car too. I want to feature in it also.
So what we get to is Speedfest up in Cordele, which is at Watermelon Capital Speedway.
Yep.
And they came down and started this World Series, which is not a bad deal.
No, but you're glossing over one thing. You know who won the Watermelon Capital race?
I was backing up to it, but let's go.
Our boy Bubba Pollard. Put it on him, son.
Yeah.
Put it on him in a Seneca car.
Yeah.
He normally drives Port City now.
Right.
But he borrowed a car from James Finch because his couldn't get back in California in time.
It just shows he can drive anything,
Oh,
anywhere.
the dude is just a master. I mean, he ran up front in California, had a problem, and we were going to talk about down there in New Smyrna, he was leading the race when he had a problem. So our boy's back, and he's with a vengeance.
Right.
Yeah, I look for, we've got one, which we'll get into probably next week in results, but they've got one more 100 lapper coming up in just a few days, the Orange Blossom 100, which we'll get into, too, with a cup driver that ended up winning both of them last year and then won last night. So let's back up a little bit and talk about Pollard, because Pollard has been polishing some things in his stable, and now he's venturing out, and he's just somebody trying different things to see, or eliminating funds to make this travel happen.
I think it's more handing out money, because the thing is, he's not going to be able to run his car all year long without having to freshen it up. And he's going to miss some races if he didn't have another team. So he's driving for Finch, which is a Seneca, and I've understood that he might also be driving a Fury at some point this year. So that's going to be interesting to see how good he does and everything. But it just goes to show you how pretty much of a that Bubba Pollard is. He's a bad man. That's all I can say. He gets the job done.
Anything, anytime, anywhere. I mean, he can drive them all. Doesn't matter.
Oh yeah. I'd love for him to drive my car to Derby one year. Maybe he'll break my Derby jinx, and we'll get a Derby trophy.
Yeah, right.
We'll see.
if tonight is night 6, and I think the Orange Blossom is Saturday night, so that would be 3 days from now. They still have a huge lineup of 602 modifieds. They've got the Tour Type modifieds, the Florida modifieds. What we call like some of the ground pounders that we've talked about with Burt Myers and Matt Hirschman. And we'll get into Matt Hirschman in just a little bit. This dude is tearing it up down there in that ground pounder series. But the Pro Late models, there's a lot of good drivers that are opening eyes for a lot of teams that are coming in that we have talked about that have been on the radar, but now their talent is starting to show down there in the Pro and the Super Lates.
Katie Hettinger's one of them.
Yeah.
She's been in the top 5 in every single race she's been in down there, including the Red Eye. So I think she finished 6th in the Red Eye. But, I mean, she's doing a great job. There's a lot of young pro guys that are really, really fast that are coming up. Next thing you know, they'll be in supers.
Yeah, I think she sets 3rd in points in the pros for the championship.
She's a bit behind though. But top 3 is awesome, but she's far enough behind. I don't know if she's going to be able to make it up or not, but that's going to be definitely interesting. But Hirschman's been on a tear. He's whooped them 2 nights in a row, and man, you can't. I want to be down there for that, and my buddy Ben Cranford's going to be down there, and it stinks. But, I'm going to Nashville this weekend, so I'm not going to get to go, but I would love to go down there and watch the last couple of races. And while we're talking about the racing down there, our own Cody Brusso, who's been on this podcast, finished second twice in both sportsman races. And
got compliments, too.
Derek Griffith won the race, the 12G car. And he said in Victory Lane on the first night, he said, we gotta find some more speed because that 7 car's faster. Yeah. And then the next night, they ran only 13 laps, I think, and the rain came and they had to call the race, and she finished second. And she was faster than the guy leading the race. So, a big shout out to Cody Brusso.
Right. Is that her car in the 7, or is that?
No, it's owned by
Brooke
Brian
Store.
No, Brian Burkhofer owns that car.
Oh, okay. So, but she does drive the 7.
Yes.
Right,
yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Brooke Store. I know that they're,
Yeah, they're married.
Okay.
Their
Yeah.
husband, and wife and wife, and they're good people. Yeah. And she didn't race down there, but Cody did.
Yeah.
And man, she was blazingly fast.
She raised some eyebrows, no doubt about that.
Definitely. And they're talking about getting out of racing. Hopefully now maybe she'll change her mind.
Yeah, I would think so.
I mean, she's not driving her equipment. She's driving somebody else's, but she could have easily won either one of those races if she'd had some more laps in the second one, she said.
Yeah.
Well, it's a big event, night 6 tonight, and we've got the Orange Blossom coming up Saturday night, which is another 100-lap super late model race, and but we've got some other modified races that are coming up in between there. I think Friday night's one of the biggest modified races, 100-lap or 2, like the Jimmy Blewett Memorial.
Yeah.
And Matt Hirschman, Patrick Emmerling, a lot of those guys that, even Burt Myers was down there, running one night. Now they do run select nights because of their schedule, but Matt Hirschman's really been tearing it up down there.
Isn't he a NASCAR spotter also?
It sounds familiar.
I think Matt Hirschman is also a spotter in the Cup Series, and he's a heck of a race car driver too. And the guys he spot for might want to watch out. He might be taking some seats.
Wouldn't that be embarrassing? Have your spotter come up and just whoop you?
The spotter walks up and
right.
go, "Here, you take this headset. Give me the helmet. Get out of the way. Let me show you how it's done." That would be funny.
Yeah, it's a big deal going down in New Smyrna, which is convenient for a lot of these guys because some of them have affiliations with a higher tier, and they happen to be in the area, and one of them happens to be in the 24 car with that Donnie Wilson Motorsports stable, William Byron.
Willie B. Mm-hmm. Getting it done two of them in a row. But he did a great job, but if Bubba Pollard hadn't had that fender brace come loose, I think the results would be something else. But if and buts are candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas.
Absolutely.
Right.
You just
But
never know.
Bubba led the most laps, and then it looked like something broke, and the fender brace broke, and the fender dropped down, was dragging the racetrack. He had to come in and fix it.
Yeah.
Came back to finish 11th.
Yeah.
But
Little buggers, you just never know what little things are going to get you.
Yeah, Nasty goes out leading. Bubba Pollard goes out leading. Sawalich goes out leading. Was finishing when they were running second. And then here goes William Byron. Didn't have a good qualifying run. Said he slipped up a little bit and wasn't really on the wheel. Had to work through some traffic. Said it was a little sketchy there to begin with, but he ended up coming away with the win. And I'm sure he's going to be there Saturday night for the Orange Blossom too.
oh, I'm sure he'll be there, and then probably be pretty tough to beat. But Saturday's going to be, he's got there's no cup practice for the 500
No,
this year.
there's not.
And you got not to get into that, but I just want to say there's several guys that have never raced Daytona that are going to try to qualify for that race. So qualifying was today, so I don't know who made it, who didn't, but going to be interesting, that's for sure. And guys like William Byron, it's cool that they get a short track ride with Donnie Wilson. I'm sure he paid the bill, but he's won races for the man.
Yeah. Put him in it. Let's see what happens.
Well, Sawalich had a shot and he blew up, so
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty uncharacteristic. You just never know when that's going to happen.
Yeah, sometimes mechanics overtake talent.
Yeah. Sometimes luck overtakes all of that.
Yeah.
Too, so.
yep. As little as they blow engines anymore, it just happens sometimes. So it's going to be interesting for sure. And then, I don't know if Bubba's going to run that race Thursday night or not. I haven't heard.
Yeah, that's something we're gonna certainly pay attention to. I'm not sure with the news what his schedule's like either, but obviously it's going to come out next Wednesday, and we'll have the final tally on all that and continue from there. But man, if 9 nights of modified sportsman, pro late models, super late models,
Super stocks.
oh yeah,
B bombers, A bombers.
yeah.
There's a bunch of them. Saturday nights have 50 lapper for my class. Oh man, and believe me, if I wasn't going to Nashville this weekend, I'd have to put that thing behind that GMC of Benz and haul tail down there.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, the World Series of asphalt stock car racing at New Smyrna has just been put on the top of our dumpster list.
Yes.
I want to do the whole. What I would like to do is go down and do the whole week and then do the Daytona 500.
Oh, Lord.
Go down there on Monday and don't come back till the following Monday.
Yeah. If you lived that long, if you survived all that, that'd be something.
Oh, but it's awesome.
A whole lot of action.
And then scoot up to a couple of the dirt tracks and watch some of the big late model guys on dirt track racing.
Yeah, Kenny Wallace and
No, Kenny don't run down there no more.
he doesn't.
No, he's no longer racing across the country. I heard it on his podcast. He was talking about. He said what he did. He sold his enclosed trailer and all his expensive stuff. He has an open trailer and a Toyota Tacoma. And he said that I-55 Speedway is right up the road.
Yeah.
So he said, when I feel like I need to itch, I'm gonna load the modified on the open trailer, go up there and race I-55 and come home. He said, I'm done travel racing.
Becoming more of a family man.
Well, he said him and his wife want to do things. They got grandchildren, so why not? He made enough money, and he's got a comfortable padding behind him, so he can relax. And then when when I feel like putting a modified on the trailer, I'll take it and race it. If I don't, I just stay home.
Yeah. Hey, what a life, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. Especially when you're Kenny Wallace.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Oh, Herm.
Herm.
You know where he got that nickname? Herman. When he was a little kid, his brothers were racing. He was in the grandstands, and he'd run around and start fights with people and yell at them for they were booing his brother. And an old man said, you're just like Herman the German. There's a character on an old cartoon, black and white cartoon called Herman the German. He was always getting into trouble. Yeah. So he called him Herman, and that's how he got the name Herman. Herm. That's what, just call him Herm now, but it stuck to him. His old man said, you're just like Herman the German. So everybody started calling him Herman, and that's where he got that from.
Herman.
Now you know.
And knowing is half the battle.
Knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe.
Well, gonna look in here for some rundowns on point situations for.
It's there. I'm not sure exactly. It's on the New Smyrna website. I saw it. Jake. We got to look at Jake Finch.
Yeah, finished second.
Finished second. Casey Roderick's leading the points in that deal. And that, we talked about him earlier this year. He ain't won a race down there yet, but we said Casey would be tough, and man, he's going to be.
I mean, Connor Mozak finished fourth. That's somebody we haven't talked about too much, but he snuck in there. Maybe as a beneficiary of other people's difficulties, but still, he was there in the top 5. So
it's a possibility, yeah.
Yeah, I just ran across the tour type modifieds. If we were talking about the ground pounders, the big 15-inch, they're low to the ground, and they just get after it. Matt Hirschman leads slimly by 4 points over Patrick Emmerling and Eric Goodell, Tyler Remke, and Anthony Bello. So, it's not over yet for the tour types either.
No.
So it's anything, and they've got 37 cars listed for that entry. But they're all battling for a championship, just like all the others are. And
well, Jimmy Blewett, who's 6th in the points, he's running. The Blewett race is named after his brother, and you remember seeing that on the Dale Jr. download when him and his brother crashed together, and his brother died in the crash.
Right.
So I mean, that's tough.
Yeah, I think that Blewett Memorial is one that's coming up, the big 100-lapper for these big.
It's named after his brother. Yeah.
Yeah, we have Burt Myers and Jeremy Gerstner. We've mentioned him before, and Dave Sapienza. Some of those guys that they run this. Tyler Catalano, the Catalano man. There's just like 5 of them out there.
Ron
So
Silk, I see him in there.
Amy, right. So it's and Ron Silk. That's probably taken maybe a hiatus to not really running the whole thing because he's so far back. It's like 52 points, and he's not even close. But he's probably just running once or twice. I don't know.
Saw Casey Roderick's name in there too.
Yeah, Casey Roderick. Yes, Casey Roderick actually has participated, so that's kind of interesting to see him behind one of those modifieds. But man,
it would have been cool to see Corey LaJoy compete there. He won Martinsville earlier this year in a modified.
And I see that Gio Rogerio is just second in points, only back by 10. He finished 5th, so he's right there too.
Man, there's a lot of good names, a lot of good cars. It's going to be interesting. And I know Friday night they're having a 25-lap super stock. Saturday night they're having a 50-lap super stock. It ought to be a good show. Those guys, there's only like 9 cars in there. I was like, oh man, go down there and but it's all right. Yeah. I can't. Yeah. I made a promise. I'm going to Nashville.
Right.
Catch a French breaker. I can't afford it anyway. I bought that motor. That blew out all my extra cash for right now.
Extra cash? I don't even use those 2 words in the same sentence.
Well, the Florida modifieds down there, Cody Stickler, we've talked about him. Jerry Simons, Bill Burba, we've talked about him as well. Wayne Parker and Tim Moore round out the top 5 in that Florida modifieds. Just past halfway for these 9 nights of racing at New Smyrna. It just keeps getting better than that. With the 602, now, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but the 602s are just like the sealed 602 that would be run here in the Sportsman in a modified.
It's the same engine. Yeah, it's a GM sealed 355 cubic inch small block engine just assembled. There's nothing fancy about it. And I like that idea. I think it's pretty cool. It makes it competitive, that's for sure.
You're not blowing tons of money on a motor all the time. A built motor.
Well, yeah, those tour type modified motors probably 50,000 maybe.
Well, I got that laying just in my back pocket there, and I got that.
Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a good show. The World Series asphalt's always just bad to the bone. I mean, it's that place is just. Being that I've been on it now, that racetrack, I love it. I want to go back.
You got the itch now.
Oh, yeah, right. Now you've got it figured out.
Well, the speed down that back straightaway is incredible.
Yeah.
That just drop off into turn 3 and just turn the wheel and just gas it up, man. It's just like, oh, yeah. Daddy like.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of them that go through that. With the 602 modified points is Luke Baldwin. Leading the points, actually tied with Andrew Lewis Jr. at 130. Lee Sharpstein, Trevor Catalano again, and Evan Rogalski around that top 5 in the 602 modifieds down there at New Smyrna. We get the pro late models, man. Connor Jones, I think he's with that Rackley War.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
26 car, yeah.
And he's leading the points by 16 over Hunter Wright. Katie Hettinger is sitting 3rd. Charlie Keevan running 4th, and Ryan Luza. We've talked about Ryan Luza, flying Ryan Luza from Texas, running 5th right now.
Well, he got the pole for the first race and was leading, and the right front went down and he hit the fence. I mean, it was dominating and hit the wall. So Ryan Luza's a heck of a wheel man. His Uncle Eddie and I are good friends.
I've seen him in go-karts, at the bull ring over there in the equestrian center, believe it or not.
Yeah. Well, you remember he run Pro Late Model 5 flags, and I think he won the championship one year.
I believe he did.
Yeah.
Won the iRacing championship too. It wasn't $100,000, but it was,
Yeah.
10 at the time.
Yeah.
So, and we moved to the super late models now. It's we've got the Orange Blossom coming up, which is also one of those points races. Casey Roderick sitting at the top, Gio Rogerio, Derek Griffith, Connor Mozak, and William Sawalich around the top 5. But I mean, you could go down to the top 30 and say, wow. So to stand on top of that super late model series there with that event going on at New Smyrna has got to be pretty special. Although I did see an interview with Casey Roderick. It was not really all smiles because he hadn't won a race, but yet he's leading the points and the championship. So I mean, how do you judge that?
Well, I mean, it's frustrating. You lead the points, but if you haven't won a race, you always want to win at least one to kind of let everybody know that, hey, I'm here. I don't care if I'm, I want to win the championship, but I also want to win a race to justify my place. Yeah,
you should win a couple races if you're the champion. But, hey, he's doing a great job. None that we said he would at the beginning of this year when he hooked up with that team, that he would be a force to reckon with, and he has been.
Yeah, I'm going to say William Byron's probably the favorite going into Saturday night, but what do I know? He's just driving good equipment,
Oh, he's a heck of a wheel, man. There ain't no taking that away from him, but he's got to deal with that 26 car when he's right, and Bubba was right the other night, so they're going to fix that fender brace and come back and, get that 55-gallon drum, and pour it all over him.
Yeah, and I think William Sawalich is one of those that we talked about before we went on. I think he's one to watch because after last night breaking, running up front, I think he was running second when he broke. Like Nassie and Pollard running up front, leading while they had problems. I think he's on the verge of taking over.
Well, we got to put the good board in for the Minnesota Missile, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I've seen interviews with him. He's a great kid.
Yeah,
I mean, he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's got good equipment. He's in good field. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he wants to feel with the car, and he's proven it last year with those supers and mostly the pro race wins that he's had last year.
Good kid, fast.
Yep.
He didn't run so good at Georgia, but he's going to do good down here. Guaranteed he'll either win one or run in the top 3.
Well, that wraps up Speed Fest and the World Series of Asphalt. We'll get to the rest of it next Wednesday. I do want to enter in a different type of segment here that we haven't done before, and it's called Q&A, a segment of detailed discussion. And I've got a couple of questions lined up for the guys in the panel. One of which I have answers already, but I'm going to let that remain for them when that question comes up. My first question out on the floor: what do you think about the health short track racing as a whole right now?
I think it's great. I mean, it's really doing well. The recognition is coming around because people are getting tired of the politics in NASCAR, so they're looking for something else to flow towards. So the short track is there.
Yeah, but a lot of racetracks are closing. Not to be the gloomy gust, but you heard that Rockford, Illinois Speedway is now closing. That track's been open for 6 decades, and they're closing it because they're going to make a housing project.
Yeah, of course.
Southern Raceway in Milton, they're building a subdivision less than a quarter mile away from the Speedway. Five Lake Speedway, they're building an apartment complex and a new. I mean, it's the racing is good. It's fun to go watch. But as people want new houses and want to move further away from the cities, these tracks are going to close. And that's what I hate. I mean, Rockford Speedway, you kidding me? I mean, Dick Trickle and Bob Seneca and all those guys, Mark Martin have all won races there. And now this is the last season. It's going to close permanently forever. They're trying to close the Fun Factory down there. They sold a bunch of property nearby for commercial. I mean, for residential.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, pardon my French, asinine.
Right.
Well,
as a whole, it is probably stronger than it's been.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say stronger than it's been because the economy sucks and it does hurt racing.
Yeah.
I mean, the races are there. The races are good and I enjoy all of it. And I hope it continues to grow. But when people don't have expendable income,
right,
they don't go. I mean, look at Five Flags. We don't have anybody in the grandstands when Trump was in office. But anyway, the economy was better. More people come out. More people have extra money to spend. That's what I'm looking at. And I think the sport is not stagnant. I think it is growing some. but it's not growing at the rate it used to. And I hope that it continues to go up instead of down. But I hate to see racetracks close, and that's my point behind it. I'm flabbergasted that some of these places have been here forever, and they want to close them.
Well, I'm kind of hoping that the frustration of the politics in other sports that we've seen so much of will translate to some people, trying to find somewhere to go, and they're like, well, we'll talk about the Super Bowl, but yeah.
Well, the problem is you're going to have people that think stock car racing is nothing but a bunch of rednecks chasing each other around a racetrack, and they're never going to change their mind. So you're going to have football people that aren't going to change over. But where we need to win is young minds. We need to win young people over. No. That's my opinion. But I mean, right now everything's going good, and I hope it stays the same. But I mean, I'm just seeing racetracks after racetrack after racetrack close because of people encroaching with housing projects, and then people buy a house there and go, I can't deal with all that noise. Well, you bought the house right next to it.
You didn't know it was there.
Yeah, you didn't talk to your realtor 100%. The realtor gonna lie. No, that's not a racetrack. No, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah, well, a follow-up to that is the Stars Tour that's coming up here this year. Is it a start of what we might be seeing, some of the dirt money that we've talked about before? We've talked about the dirt side of it, where they're making a living. As a Stars Tour, maybe a knock on the door to get into that field, to where these guys can actually make a living doing asphalt?
If they can get a sponsor that'll pay the money that they need to. But like I said, we've gone back to this before. The problem is these young kids are coming up. They're not going to stay racing late models. There's hardly any Bubba Pollards or Casey Rodericks anymore. It's all these young 15, 16-year-old kids. They're just passing through because they want to go to the big leagues. They don't care about, short track racing. They're just using this as a stepping stone. Same thing with ARCA. ARCA used to be its own entity. Now it's a stepping stone into Trucks, Cup, Xfinity.
Mm-hmm. So a limited number of seats, so maybe everybody can't get there. But
and the cost. I mean, when you got to spend $100,000 on just the car,
easy,
and then you got to have a hauler to haul it, then a bunch of shocks and spare this and spare that and extra parts for that. You can't afford it. It's no longer late models. Used to be a guy like me would go out in his garage, grab a bunch of tubing, and build a late model and show up in the race. It's not like that anymore. I hope the money comes in, and I hope it turns into that, because I think it's cool to have a national champion super late model driver. And I hope and pray it's not one of these rich kids. It's Bubba Pollard or Casey Roderick or Stephen Nasse, or these guys that aren't going to go to the big time. They're going to race short track.
They're happy where they are and they want to stay there.
That's the ones I want to see do well and make a good stink. Nothing against Swallich, but he's not going to stay in late models.
Right, right.
He's already got a contract with Joe Gibbs.
Yeah.
So
I can understand that from a youth standpoint. We've gone over that since we started. Youth and experience, and youth seems to be taking over, because some of these guys that they're finding, like all the athletes that are coming in through the colleges, they're finding the 4 and 5 stars, and that's what we're seeing in the 15, 16, and 17-year-old ranks. They're 4 and 5 star drivers.
I'd have to disagree a little bit on that, and I'll tell you why. It's not so much that they're 5-star drivers, it's that 5-star checkbook that mom and dad or granddaddy has, because there's some people that race in these divisions that they'd have no business being in one of those cars, and they just run over people, and they just write a check. Right. There is no, let's go find a driver, then we'll find a sponsor. It's, okay, Mr. Pokrant, when you come in here, how much money are you going to bring? It's not that, hey, I'm a 10-time super late model champion at Five Flags Speedway. I've won the Blizzard Series. I've won the Southern Super Series 4 times. I want to drive your truck. Okay, well, how much money are you bringing?
Yep.
It's not, hey, man, you're talented as heck. We want you in our truck. We'll find sponsorship. No. Nope, it's what you bring to the table.
I talked to Bubba Pollard's mom years ago, and she told me back then that you had to either bring a sponsorship package or $4 million in cash to get a ride in NASCAR.
Yep. So. And that's what's hurting short track racing is, here comes all the money, and when the money leaves, these super late model teams like Donnie Wilson, he's not going to continue on down the road if he's got nobody paying his bills.
Right. Right.
He's going to quit. He's going to sell some cars, or the field's going to shrink, is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these young kids nowadays aren't interested in getting their hands dirty or working on a race car or being race car drivers. They want to do the iRacing, and then they want to play on their phone. They don't want to get out and get sweaty and have to wear a cool suit and all that. They don't want to do that.
Nah.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sounding negative tonight, but it's just I love the sport so much, and it's changed so dramatically and turned into a rich kid sport.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I'm going to put that on the lighter side with the last question, and we can go ahead and do our little sign off. But this is, if you were to drive, now you got to picture yourself being a race car driver, okay, for like fantasy situations and hypotheticals.
Definitely.
I mean, this is for open discussion, just Q&A. Find an owner and a chassis and a crew chief. Who would it be?
I'm going to go with the Donnie Wilson package and Ricky Turner. Because, I mean, the thing being that he has got so many cars that he can share the information.
Yep.
And he can continue to improve the cars by sharing that information.
Donnie Wilson and that stable and Ricky Turner, that's certainly a winning combination, no
doesn't
doubt.
share information. He takes that thing and the Cup team set it up. He puts it on a pull down rig, and they just make it happen, which is fine. He's got the money to do it. Me, it's going to be Robert G. from the 70s, which is Dale Earnhardt's father-in-law. I'd want Tony Urey as a crew chief, and I'd like to race in the 80s. That would be me. I'd love to live back then late 70s, early 80s when Gary Ballou and guys like Bob Seneca and Mark Martin and all these guys were racing short track. That's where I'd want to race.
Yeah. Oh, the golden ages.
Well, when the driver made a difference.
Yeah.
It wasn't, okay, well, this technical setup says we have to do a 1/10 of an inch here. It's, hey, you get it close, I'll win the race. Because the driver made the difference. Now, the super late models are so, and I'm not putting down these guys whatsoever. Late models are a lot easier to drive than a street stock.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, you drive a corner and everything has to be precise and perfect. Now, you get in my car, it can be a little off, and the driver can make a difference. The driver can get up on the wheel and drive it in a little deeper, drive back a little bit. With late models, you can't do that. Once you overdrive it, it's done. You've cooked the tires, and you're just going to fade.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's. I'm not saying these kids are not talented. Don't take what I'm saying the wrong way, but it's a whole lot easier to buy talent than it is to actually develop it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's easier to buy a $100,000 car with all the best everything and hire a crew chief that can do everything for you versus actually getting your butt out in that garage, change the shocks. Chase Elliott is a perfect example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, his daddy is Bill Elliott. Yes, they had lots of money, but Bill said, "You want to race? Yep, there's a chassis. Put it together.
Yeah.
Learn."
Show me what you can do.
Well, I've got a couple for you to end this question. Augie Grill
Yeah.
with a Gark chassis, Grand American Race Cars,
Yeah.
and crew chief would be Freddie Query.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Freddie Query's pretty. Yeah. Yep.
That'd be my all-star team right there. If I had talent behind the wheel, but I would drive a Gark. I believe in Frankie and Augie, and that whole stable has been dominant for a long time. Freddie Query, where do you start? I mean, that cat he knows his ins and outs for sure. So yeah, Augie Grill with the Gark chassis and Freddie Query, and I'd be okay.
I would say you'd be all right.
Yeah.
I would say it'd be a good choice. Yeah, Freddie Query is definitely a good choice, man.
Yep. Well, guys, albeit a week, and condolences to all of it across the board. Prayers for everybody. We all start to see things a little differently every day. It's always a pleasure to get together with you guys and talk short track racing. We're going to continue and pick up the ball and keep rolling like everybody would want us to do. And all I can say is thanks, guys.
Hey, welcome, man.
And I don't know. I think we've run out of languages. I don't know if we speak any other languages. I guess we just go back to the old 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
All right, let's do all three together. 1, 2, 3.
Let's go, Brandon. Good night, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Be strong, America.
Good night.